Well, hello, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of our Action Coach Business Spotlight series. I'm so excited to have William on this episode of our podcast. William is the president and founder of Portus Wealth Advisors. Been in that role, I believe, for about 6 years. Love to hear a bit about that history and about your company and team. William, and thanks again for joining. I hope you're doing well today.
Yeah, no, thanks so much. Thanks for having me on. So, as with any business owner, it's a long, winding road to where we sit today, right? I actually started off with a firm out of Baltimore, Maryland in 2005. Worked in their back office where I generated handwritten financial plans because that's what we had to do back in the day. It wasn't all computer generated. We did that for a few years. Started working with a partner and just his clients for a few years, and then spun off and kind of had my own practice that I was dealing with that company. In 2011, we left Baltimore and moved down to Charlotte. I actually stayed with that firm. I walked in the door and quit. My wife, I'd already brought my kids down here, my wife and kids down here. I went back up to Baltimore, walked into my partner's office and told him I was done. And
Fell in
he
love
said,
with the Carolinas.
yeah. And he said, wait a second, don't leave. Is I just work remotely. And so I worked remotely with them for 4 years. There were some promises that were made over a 4 year period of time that weren't kept. And so I left, found a small firm here in Charlotte to work with for a couple of years, and turns out that didn't work either. And this is where I make the natural statement that it's not me, it's them, right? So I started my own firm in 2019. It was me and my assistant. We've now grown from the two of us working with 29 clients to five of us working with 91 clients today. And we'll probably add a 16 member at some point in time here in 2026. So, primary focus of the business is small business owners, generally speaking, with net income between 1 million and 5 million, which generally is going to put them in the 10 to 30, maybe $40 million top line revenue number, right? So we just found that they've got enough complexity that we live in really, really well. And so that's kind of become our niche over the course of the last 5 or 6 years.
That journey, first off, thanks for sharing it. And obviously, just a testament to some vision, some resilience, some tenacity. Those 6 years have been quite unique in the things that have unfolded between the pandemic and many, many, many other factors. But as we find as business owners and leaders, and obviously as a wealth strategist, there's just more of that to come, right? So I think that if we could spend some time talking about that 6 year time frame, kind of where you started versus where you are now, and clearly there was just a constant flow of unknowns and unprecedented. So, William, as a leader in your organization and the founder of your business and the things you took from previous roles, to get to the point of my question, as you look back over that 5 to 6 year time frame, the vision you had to start with versus the clarity you have now with it in the rear view, is there a theme there that has been the gas on the fire for your business, Portus Wealth Advisors, to be able to experience that kind of growth? What's that key factor that you found that's unique to you all, if you will?
Yeah, so it's a commoditized business, so to speak, right? There's can't even begin to tell you how many financial advisors there are here in Charlotte, um, or across the country for that matter, right? And then in addition to that, there's robo opportunities and everything else. And so uh, what we figured out is, and for a while there, contrary to popular belief out there, we say yes to a boatload of stuff. And I know the general consensus out there is to say no. But clients ask us if we can do something, and we say yes. Um, and we don't say yes to things that we can't do, right? We don't write estate plans. We don't do taxes because those aren't things that we're licensed to do. But we jump in and get involved in every aspect of their lives, personal, financial, business, financial, and just personal in general, um, to help them better understand how money can make their lives easier and better. And the more we say yes, the more our clients love us. Hopefully, if they're listening to this, they're nodding their head and saying, yes, we love you. And yes, you do a lot. But, and as a result of that, we're constantly referable because
There you go.
we take away pains for our clients.
Mhm.
Um, and we're actually going through a fee increase right now. And one of the things I've had to tell clients is, look, we do more for less. And if we want to continue that up, increases are necessary so that we can hire in order to staff appropriate in order to keep that more component foot on the pedal. So yeah, it's constantly say yes for the benefit of our clients.
And I think that there's a component there of culture as you've built your team out from you and, the who's coming with me, the assistant came. And to now have a team of 5 and potentially adding even more to that. I got those numbers right, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, 5 to 6. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's a culture of capability. It's a mindset. I think back to when I owned and operated a couple of franchise automotive shops. The key word that we spoke with everybody about was absolutely. If there was a question on there, absolutely, we can figure that out, and we will, and we've managed that from the perspective of time frames, timelines, and cost, proactively. So that's certainly there. You think about this, to your point about having so many advisors, even in our immediate market, much less the accessibility to skill that's not in your neighborhood due to technology, right? The only way that we can really differentiate ourselves against the competition is by the results or by the experience, right? And so you've spoken largely about the experience. From a results standpoint, speak a little bit about your organization. I know your niche is specifically small business owners. Was that the focus all along? How have you found that avatar to be your fit for your offering, your beliefs and your culture, like we were just talking about? So talking a little bit about that avatar, small business owners, that size, how did you get clarity around who you best serve?
Yeah, so it really dates back. The firm I was with in Baltimore worked with families in the 1 million to kind of 3 million like liquid net worth range, right? In 2011, I had an idea for a software as a service company, kind of in the digital estate planning world.
Okay.
I launched that. Ultimately, wrote 10 or 11 peer-reviewed articles in journal publications for financial planners, estate attorneys, insurance agents, CPAs. Got picked up in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. But ultimately, I made too many mistakes and that business failed. Best business lesson I ever had in my entire life was running that startup for 2.5 years. As I was shutting that business down, I stumbled upon the Charlotte Angel Fund and started going to Charlotte Angel Fund meetings. And naturally, folks that are in that are previous entrepreneurs, founders, business owners, and others. And so
Is
that
that a
world,
hard money type of environment then, basically, for private
yeah,
capital?
yeah. So we invest in, so it's a $30,000 commitment to join the Charlotte Angel Fund, and the
Okay.
Charlotte Angel Fund invests in fast-growing startups, primarily across the Southeast.
Got it.
So we see 3 companies come in every month and pitch for funds. Um, and they're looking to raise $1 to $5 million, and generally speaking, and you're listening to a bunch of other smart people dissect businesses, and having launched a business and failed the business, and then listening to other people dissect fast growing businesses. um, it really gave me more and more foundational appeal for small business owners. And then as a result of just being in that space, and networking in that world, um, more and more small business owners were being referred to us. And so one day we woke up and over 80% of our clients for the last 4 years that have been referred to us are small business owners. And now more than 50% of our clients that have come to us, or that we serve, or families that we serve now, either are small business owners or were, and they sold their business and now they're retirees. Um,
Any trends as far as niches there, as far as your client profile,
yeah, I mean,
industry?
it really ends up being a little bit more blue collar focused. They are craftsmen, right? They started off with a landscape or an electrical, or a construction business or something of that nature. And they were just really dang good at their craft. And next thing you knew, they had 50 employees, 100 employees, in some cases 250 employees. And they've done a phenomenal job at building that company, and going from a craftsman to a CEO. But now they've got, all of these other complexities that sit as a result of that,
Yep.
and they're at that crossroads at that point in time where it's like, hey, we need help. Can you help us understand what we're doing and how we're going to go from an illiquid family where we own this business and probably some commercial real estate, some other things, into the next stage, right? Like, how's it going to benefit us into retirement, our kids, our grandkids? How do we think about it? Is it family succession, outside succession, and those types of things? And along those different paths, what do we need to think about to make it the most successful it can be for all those involved, right? And most of the time that includes their employees, right? Because they look at their employees as their family. And
Mhm.
so it is, they want to maximize what's there for them and what they build, but they want to make sure that their employees that they leave behind don't get trampled one way or the other. So, and they're great conversations. And the Charlotte Angel Fund, the failed business, has certainly helped. My business partner worked with ultra high net worth families for 10 years, and so he understands estate planning, charitable planning, family legacy stuff. So from a team perspective, Matt,
Bring it all together.
we just fit really well together as a team right now, which is the hard part, as you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Like, now, how do you continue to stack on top success and foundational components that leverage and build upon the strengths that John and I already bring to the table? And it's hard because when we look at our business, there are multiple roles, and we can look at it right now. And I told you we'll probably hire later this year. We can hire internally as an operations. We can hire internally from a financial planning associate. We can hire an investment analyst, or we can hire another relationship person to start to get ready to absorb new client growth over the course of the next couple of years. We could hire any one of those five this year, and it would probably be the right hire. But I mean, as you know, and as our listeners know, we've got to strategically think about which one is the right one for us at this moment in time. And
Yeah.
then how do we find that person to fill that role? And then as a small company, how do we attract that person to us, right? Because we can't always win on comp. Um, and we can't always win on, we're not going to win on a better health insurance or 401k or those
Right.
types of things. So how can we win and attract those folks to our business?
Yes. And in working with a client right now on that growth strategy, you can come at it from a couple of angles to try to attract different, first to see what's out there, right? And then that individual may be a myriad of those traits and talents. And so I've encouraged that individual to basically post 2 or 3 position descriptions. One's for that just graduated. This particular client's a home inspector, and so one that's just graduated and is like hungry and ready to go. One that's on the other end that maybe even already owned their own company and they just want to do inspections a day, pack their lunch and go home. So you can kind of, to your point, and I think there's a bit of that as a wealth strategist, it's a strategy, but the strategy doesn't necessarily get you to the end. It gets you to another checkpoint where you say, okay, was that the right decision? What new information do we have? I call that progressive elaboration. Does that resonate at all with you, William?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
So it absolutely does. And look, there's no right answer, right? There's what you do and then what you do with it. So you I don't know. We get so hung up on right, or perfect. And as you build out a company, you're going to make mistakes, and you've just got to be prepared to acknowledge those mistakes and see whether or not you have to cut ties and move forward, or whether or not you can, manage it appropriately for the benefit. Because I mean, ultimately, what we're trying to do is build a really dang good firm for our clients. And so, if we hire somebody that's really good at their job and is really contributing to the company, it might not have been the right hire 12 months from now, right? We might realize that we would have been better off hiring XYZ, but if
Mm-hmm.
they're contributing to our clients, we've got to figure out if they're making the firm better. We've got to figure out a way to absorb that growth
That's
in the
right.
right way, and then make the next hire and maybe it's actually the right one specifically for what we needed to fill at that point in time, right?
Yeah, and if you would take one nugget that I love to say is hire the heart and train the brain.
Yeah,
So, if they're a fit for the culture and it's you've got that gut that comes from years of learning what to do and even in the business failure, what not to do, both very important lessons.
yeah,
So definitely some nuggets in there. Appreciate you sharing those. One final kind of thought to talk about as we get short on time is around leverage. And I know as a wealth strategist, leverage is a key concept that you're working with your clients on and making the money that they've worked for now begin to work for them. And that's that kind of reinvesting, in the profits and or in generational wealth. So with that being said, just with that bit of leverage, leverage is something that as we see business owners progress in leadership maturity or ownership maturity, we kind of start at the base level of mastery, then you get into your niche. So mastery is just like, what am I trying to deliver? The time management piece of that delivery, where are you headed? And then obviously the financials. That's the foundation of kind of the 6 keys to business success. Second level is that niche, which you've begun and continue. Interestingly enough, more than half of our client book are trades as well. And I think it's for all the reasons that you've described. They also, working with their hands, know the limits of their own abilities as a tradesman and or from their own licensure. And so they seem to have a quicker acknowledgement than maybe some of those real strong personality executive leaders that are slower to come to a realization that there are some blind spots. And if you're aware of those, you and your team and your business and therefore your customers would be better. Stick that
yeah,
in the rest area for a second and get back to what we were talking about. The third step after mastery and niche is leverage. I want to park there for a second, but then you would have team, synergy, and results. So in the leverage, talking about your team members, making the most of your 5, even maybe technology playing any part in where you're headed as a business?
yeah. So we've started to look. I mean, I think everybody's trying to figure out where this generative AI stuff
Mm-hmm.
fits. So we do use it. In some of our, we write content, so we've tapped into some of the generative AI stuff, ChatGPT and a few others to help us start the article writing process. What we've really dialed into over the course of the last 12 months is a note taker that sits in on our client meetings and will transcribe the entire meeting for us, and then also create very clean, specific notes that come out of those meetings. And then the note taker also then takes that information and will put it over into our client relationship management software, our CRM. And so look, it's not perfect, right? It's 80 to 90% accurate as we
Mm-hmm.
go through those conversations. And so at the end of a client meeting, we have to go back through and review those notes and make sure they're accurate. And then we approve it. And then all of the automated stuff starts to happen. There's things like that. We use trading software that helps us rebalance off our client portfolios in a more intelligent fashion. And so, yeah, I mean, all of those things that we've got as a small business owner, we have to be really careful because our clients trust us to make the right decision. And so we can't put something into play that's not good.
And
Um,
proven.
yeah, and proven. Um, but at the same time, we have to be willing to do things that make us more efficient and better because we're a
Amen to that.
six-person firm. And I mean, Merrill Lynch is part of Bank of America, and Bank of America has 220,000 employees. Now, I happen to think that being small and nimble is a good
It's a
place to be.
strength.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also some negatives to not being able to
Of
have
course.
somebody just dial in and do this one specific task for us, right? So,
Or an army
um,
of researchers, but you can
yeah,
leverage the research that you subscribe to.
yeah.
So it's knowing your must-haves and then figuring out the best way for your business to be able to get those.
Yeah, which as you know, your listeners and your clients, they're doing the same things, right? Like, what can I do to make me better? Like, where can I put equipment into play? Where can I leverage this? Um, and in order to allow me to do sales better or management better or whatever else. And so, look, if our clients are growing through those challenges, the great thing is we're growing through those challenges at the same time with them.
That's right. And then come out stronger on the other end together for it. And, you know, it's definitely a collaboration, right? And you're working with them and through them, but ultimately, you know, they're making the decision on the key next step and making sure they have all the information to make that informed decision, I guess would be the way to say that we go about it. Well, William, this has just been an absolute pleasure to get to talk with you a little bit and understand the areas that you're focused on in your business and for your clients. Appreciate you taking the time to join us on this episode of our Business Spotlight series. Wish you continued success and hope that we can continue to partner in any way possible to improve the community that we both live in. So with that, thanks again.
Thanks so much, Matt. I appreciate it. Thanks for reaching out. Thanks for getting this kicked off, and look forward to buying you lunch sometime in Charlotte in the not too distant future, right?
There you go. Absolutely. Getting it done. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.